Okay, we're live.
Aha, there we go. Sorry for the delay, folks. Having tech issues. This is the joy of being live. How are we?
Good. Yeah. Welcome everyone to Small Business Chat.
Finally made it. Karen, you're very calm. I tell you. If this had been the other way around, I'd have been freaking out.
Oh,
well, I was freaking out. It was my link.
I know. I was just like, where is she? Where is she? But you're here, so it's all good.
Yes. The internet provider that shall not be named. Oh my God. So this is the last and final segment of our Demystifying PR series. And I hope that you have found it perhaps a bit more enlightening or informative. I think the reason for me, and the same that we did for you as well, Karen, was that for the marketing session, we get so many questions, or we see a lot of people impose those barriers on themselves when it comes to sort of embarking on a certain way of marketing. And the way that I see it from a marketing point of view, what you do with the website, it needs to be at the hub of marketing. Like everything you're doing outside of that is so at the core of what needs to be factored in. And the way that I see it is that PR for me is a mindset, you know, a business mindset. And we're finishing up on this series because a lot of the questions that come up when it pertains to what value does PR bring is very much a case of, you know, how does this work for my business? How is it in line with my business? So it's almost like the way that I see it is that PR is a leadership role. So whatever your objectives may be, you're still going to need a PR hat on to drive you forward as a leader. And we don't mean sort of, you know, sort of public eye leader. I think we've seen enough at the moment, haven't we, Karen? I think people can be their own leader, step up, do stuff, be part of the community, factor in these elements, you know, just even listening. And I just love that. It was a quote that I'm just going to read off, actually. But for me, like, a leader has a very strong PR understanding. So I'm just going to read out the quote that I saw, which really was sort of like the drive for this one, and you saw it as well yesterday when I posted it. But I thought it really encapsulated and linked in why PR is much more of a leadership mindset, and I thought we could break down those points and sort of like highlight it.
Definitely. And I think as well, it does bring into that thing about what we are doing in here, which is, you know, we're, you know, helping small businesses with purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are a business with purpose, absolutely right, you're going to have to drive forward in such a way that, you know, we had a fantastic episode last week about media relations, and I do believe, like, although I say that there is so much more to PR outside of media relations, and hopefully if you've been listening in, you've learned that, but you know, it's a really important part, and it does fast track. It's what shines the spotlight, isn't it? And everybody wants it, but equally it's like there's so many other factors that, please, if you're going to do that, please remember there is a certain way of being that you stay a leader. You know, you're not just you don't just shine a spotlight on you and your business for like one piece of coverage or for however long you're doing PR. It is you're using that as a stepping step to profile yourself. So the quote that I don't know who this person was. It's really annoying.
I saw there you had unknown, but maybe someone in the audience can let us know.
If you know this, please tell us, because damn that anonymous being so sly. But it says true leaders always practice 3 R's: respect for self, respect for others, responsibility for all of their actions. And I absolutely love that, because I thought, oh my God, like, this is exactly what I'm banging on about.
Yeah, definitely.
And also I always laugh and go, oh my God, you know, I always say PR is about relationship and reputation. Well, now you've got respect for self, respect for others, responsibility for all their actions. I'm going to...
The 5 R's.
Yeah, I was about to say it'll be PR. Rolling it along the side there. We're just going to rebrand it. I've always said that PR just needs a bit more of a definition in what it's doing. So there we go. But I think what I've learned as well from branding and Lynn, if you're watching this later, you're the reason that I'm going to quote you for this. But Lynn will always say, well, you can have a word, but you need to define like what that word means to you in your branding. So everyone could say, you know, confident, but what does that mean? Confident might be something that's different for someone who's looking at styling, or confident would be something a different meaning for someone that was coaching. So when I saw those, I thought, well, we'll break it down and have a little chat with our cuppa over this and what that looks like, you know, sort of in PR terms. So respect for self, it's like a bad relationship. If you don't have respect for yourself and you know who you are, then I always feel like you're always going to have other elements that will influence you and perhaps take you on a different path. So this is what I loved about branding. And I felt like this is, particularly if you are a business with purpose, you really need to strengthen what that mission and purpose is and how that's reflected in what you're doing. So in your home, like on your website, or with your branding, or in your messaging. And I just felt like that to me is having a strong sense of purpose, like knowing what your mission is, your identity, your purpose, but how are you communicating that? So that's the one thing that I would say, respect for self. And you've seen it, haven't you? Once you found out what your core was, I mean, I always love using you as a case study, like as in, oh, you should speak to Karen, like totally. And I'm still evolving mine, you know, it's still.
Yeah, I think it's always a constant evolution. I mean, I can always say, well, I could even, you know, niche it down further or hone the message even better. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the thing I think people struggle with the most. And it doesn't seem natural because you want to embrace all things. You know, so when you sort of going, oh, okay, well, I've got to just have this kind of one direction, one purpose, one mission, you know, and make it really clear. It's really hard to do. So, but I think it's great that you brought in there that respect for self, because I think it's when you truly have that sort of respect and the love for yourself, you've got to do that before you can give it to others. So if you want to serve other people, you've got to have that really grounded, don't you?
I think so. And I think that by being clear on what you can, you can't do, you will, you won't do, I think that for me is a strong core in how you're communicating that, and how, again, I love the fact that if you're communicating that and being upfront, it means that people will know straight away. It's not a bad thing if people don't want to work with you. It's not a bad thing if people go, oh, you're not quite right for me. It's not a bad thing. If anything, you know, let's just say we'll cut through the noise and just find, even if it was fewer people, but those that really support what you're doing, you will find gold in sort of the fewer numbers. And I think that respect for yourself is something that it's not used enough. People don't think about this when they're embarking on PR or thinking about it. They wouldn't even put that in the brief. Like for me, one of the best briefs, and we've got an amazing person coming on like later in September, well, early in September, about how to win pitches. And we're so keen on trying to make sure that we fit what that client was, and what that client needs to do is provide us with a brief as to who they are, what they stand for, so that how can we best serve them, and are we a fit, are we aligned, rather than what are you looking for, I can do that.
Definitely. And I think that goes back to respect, because if you're taking on someone who's not aligned with your values or your ethics or morals, anything like that, you're not going to be happy about it. You're not going to be shouting at the rooftops that you're working with this person, you know. And I know a lot of people do. We've all done it, you know, when you're sort of in desperate times and you've taken on a job or a client that you know is not really a fit, and you've done it because you think, well, I need the money, and then worked out later, actually, you know, you might have been better off just going, you know, cutting down on not eating eating well for a few days, or cut out something, you know what I mean? Not bad, that's a really bad example, but you know, just or borrowing, you know, speak to a friend, you know, can I have a loan for a month or something just to get through, or something. But I know there are cases where you have to do it, you know, when needs must, but it doesn't make you feel good, and it doesn't make you respect yourself.
Yeah, I think there is a line, isn't there? I mean, let's be honest. We are at a business age where we would probably turn it down because it's not aligned. But I've known loads of businesses, you know, and you know, it's about cash flow. Let's be honest, it is about cash flow. So they'll take it, but they just won't like it. or they'll just find it's more difficult. But if it's going to impact your health, if it's going to, like, sometimes you're absolutely right, it's just not worth it. You know, there are times that I would definitely turn something down because I know the stress that this is going to give me. I mean, if you think about it, you know, I need my clients to be really honest with me from a PR perspective. So if you're not being honest in who you are and what you're doing, then I've got more work to untangle that, to try and then communicate what it, you know, what because people can smell a rat, can't they? If you're not true to yourself and you're not communicating that, people will sit and go, it's not quite aligned, or she's not doing what she says, or she's not really showing that. So I do feel that it's a really important one to factor in. Respect for others, I'm going to go on to. I always sit there and go, it is respect for others, because I feel like this phrase, you know, we're all in different boats. You know, and it was, I think it was used last year. We're in the same storm, but we're all in different boats. And I really genuinely now sit there and go, wow, that has never been truer, because we just have no idea what that other person might be going through, how they're viewing something. Doesn't make them right, doesn't make them wrong, but they've just got a certain perspective. And when we respect other people and understand their views, we can work better with them. And again, it's sort of like, it kind of like goes into like either a HR role if you're internal, but you know, you've got to figure out who your publics are, like who is it that you want to work with. And for me, I feel that my job and what I'm really passionate about when it comes from a PR perspective is, okay, how do we get you out there? Like, you've got this mission and goal. Who do you need to align yourself with to get you out there? And where are those partnerships? Where are those relationships? Where do we need to strengthen them to get you on your way? And we've talked about this quite a few times, but I feel that understanding that is a PR mindset, because when you're choosing, right, I need to go network and get new business, or do I need to do a focus group? When you're choosing, okay, I need to listen to my clients, perhaps, you know, going through their concerns, their complaints, and I need to address that, rather than I need to do some sort of outward, you know, event. So I'm pushing myself out there. There's a real balance in it. So make sure you're peppering it all in terms of how you're getting out there and looking after yourself and really connecting with those people, because the more visual you are in terms of making an effort, and it doesn't have to be visual for visual. So I would say I would genuinely want you to make the effort because you feel that there's value there, and vice versa.
Yeah,
but you know, like, you've been in it, you've been in community groups, you've seen how that has helped you when you're giving and you're receiving, and you're definitely being part of that community, and you're listening and you're troubleshooting and you're problem solving. So there is a real community feel about that. That's what you need to get in all of your groups. That where's the top one? It doesn't have to be everything, but where is the top one? It might be a local association, it might be a local group, a community group, it might be a residence, you know, or a business association, anything like that. It might be the trade. Like the trade, I actually, again, working in hospitality, and we both worked in travel.
Yeah.
We see it, don't we? And we see ones that are really active. Like, you've seen it definitely in travel. You see if you're more active and you're outgoing and you're listening to what's, you know, and addressing the concerns and being active in that, and your viewpoint is something that you're being heard of within that community. Getting you up to that speaker platform for me is just as key.
Definitely, it's getting your point of view across, you know, telling people what you think of certain things, you know, what's your perspective on it, opinion on it. You know, for me, that membership groups are great as well, you know, just really getting out there and helping people. I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to give away too much because, you know, I should be charging for that kind of thing. And it's I think is, for me personally, it's been the wrong way around to look at things.
Yeah,
I think the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, and I think it's the value, isn't it? Like, I sit there and go, there's more value in trying to get someone to, like, to give them that advice, to help them understand sort of like, I've always noticed that whenever I've helped somebody in that community, you are the expert. you know, so then people will want to ask you more questions. So I never see it as a bad thing as giving away advice. Like, this is what we're doing now, and people will say, well, you only need to give away like a certain amount of time, and it's like, no, this is the whole point, is that if anyone asks me about PR now, we've got a whole series of, I would love you to understand all of this. And it's not a quick, fast solution like, oh, if I get a piece of coverage, then my PR, you know, that's my PR done.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the and this was what I loved about last week's chat, was because we were both, you know, just to hear it from a journalist, I felt like saying, oh yeah, Julie's spot on, this is what I'm trying to say here. But it was spot on. It was a case of, you still have to build relationships with the media. It doesn't go away. So again, this is where you understand your groups. This is understanding what they need, what they require, and how best to work with them. You've got to do that. And I would actually, I love the last bit as well, responsibility for all their actions. And there was a really good comment afterwards going, well, this is great in terms of leadership, but I think we're done with people talking and we need those actions.
Yeah, they talk the talk, don't walk the walk. And we see that from many leaders. I know,
I don't, you know, I don't think there's a perfect leader out there, but I love the ones that are more committed to finding a solution by talking to everybody. And it goes back to the second point. And so for me, it's the words that came out for me were ethics, integrity, and transparency. And I put that down as to, what does responsibility mean? And if you do come at it from an ethical point of view, you know something's wrong, like, you know there's a reason you shouldn't be doing it. No matter how cost effective it may come across, if you're not considering and respecting others in that decision-making process, then how can you call yourself a leader, as far as I'm concerned?
Definitely. Yeah, and you do have to take responsibility for stuff as well. If things go wrong, you know, hands up, take responsibility for it. I think there's so much portion blame, you know, coming from the top down, you know, through sort of governments and everything, is where it's just, oh, I'm not responsible. It's, you know, and you pass it on to the next person. And I think, you know, people are seeing this and going, hang on a minute, you know, you've got to do this. And I think this is where those true leaders step out. And it doesn't matter how small you are in your community and what you think, well, I'm not a leader, but if you're doing something, people are following you and listening to what you're saying, you are a leader. And I think taking responsibility, you know, for all your actions that you do, and saying, you know, oh, okay, I'm not perfect or whatever, or, oh, you know, I've done this and it didn't really work out and I shouldn't have done that. That is showing responsibility as well. So I think there's quite a lot to it. I think that comes under transparency as well, and integrity, doesn't it? Just being really honest about what you do.
Yeah, and from a crisis point of view, you're going to get in more trouble if you lie. Trust me, from a PR perspective.
The truth will out.
The truth will out. I'm telling you this now. And that's not to be more doom and gloom here, but let's look at this pragmatically. And nobody's expecting anybody to be mistake free. It's the same, like, you know, I don't know about you, the news this week about we're in code red for humanity in terms of climate, you know, and those climate issues. And you know what I found much more encouraging was that the posts that were there, I actually felt like I couldn't quite deal with it. Like, reading that news, I just felt like, oh God, like, you know, how many more times do we have to say this? Like, how many more times? It's something, there's a real disconnect, I feel. Again, maybe respecting others, that some people just don't have a clue how bad it is, like, or what needs to be done. And I was chatting to a client last week or two, and it was fascinating because, again, you know, they've done so much more into sort of more of an eco business, and when it comes to the product, that's not what the clients are raving about. Like, even though they've done all of this, it's just a plus. So again, we've talked about it in Clubhouse. I've had some, like, listened in some brilliant discussions of marketers going, but if you look at the data and you position sort of where do customers actually fit in this whole climate change climate concern, it's not fitting. Like, you would think that there'd be a higher customer priority and it's the job of the companies to do it. But even still, there was a brilliant person that just said, I wouldn't know where, you know, talk to me about carbon, like net zero, was it zero carbon, the carbon net, you know, zero, whatever it was. You know this better than me, actually. I'm
zero race to carbon.
Or is it, this this is it. I'm reading it and I'm stumbling.
It is, but they've made it really difficult as well, haven't they? This is what they do. It's sort of like people come up and they throw all these ideas together, and then you've got to get someone to come in, you know, someone like Nancy we've had on here, to kind of demystify it all and tell you exactly, break it down to what, you know, what is you know, net zero, what is carbon free, you know, it was like, yeah, it's a minefield.
But again, as customers, we can't retain that info. And also when it comes to, I just want my shampoo. Like I just, where am I going to see that on the package? Like, it was such a
make it simple for the consumer. That's the problem, isn't it?
It is, but again, I think that you know, we're looking at responsibility for our actions. We're looking at, all right, we just have to do it ourselves to make sure that as customers, as businesses, as clients, we're doing the best that we can do. Our customers will join us on that journey, and they just might be more inspired by it. But I love, again, like you said with Nancy, we've seen that customers are being more clued up, talking about B Corp, going, oh, I register that with that, brilliant, I will make sure I purchase that product. So again, there is some brilliant aspects of responsibility, making sure that you're going through the process. But the whole point was that nobody expects you to be perfect, but it is important that you start. Same, you know, as we talk about environmental issues, D&I issues, diversity and inclusion, there's so many aspects of it that actually you just need to start. Nobody expects you to be perfect, but better that you're starting.
And just be conscious of it. I mean, just noticing it, you know, that something that my friend Fran said to me as well, and she said it's just being aware and making a conscious decision, or just being aware of what you're doing, whether it's through business or whether it's in personal life. It's just making sure that you notice, you know, pause and take notice of what you're doing, and then you're able to sort of go down that route of making decision and being more responsible and making your choices. And I thought that was, it's a very simple way to start.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Being just more aware. And really, that sort of summed up for me why I love the whole idea of using PR as a leader. What you need, that I thought that was just perfect. It was like, you know, I don't think people associate PR with leadership, but if I'm trying to make you a leader in your area, I would have to go back and go, right, how would people be attracted to you? Like, you know, you get followers, but equally you need to inspire them to do the work. So I loved that. Again, it is such a wonderful way of looking at what's wrong and right with today's leadership. It's not standing up, shouting and being a leader and being noticed. It is about who you're inspiring, who you're empowering.
I love that.
And I think that is a big difference. And this is why I love working with businesses with purpose, because they all have these wonderful solutions. They might not all be right for everyone, or like one whole entire sector. It's not one magic pill that everything will be all right. There are all these different wonderful companies and businesses with purpose that will have a solution that might be right for that person, for that team. And I'm just loving the fact that if you want to be that business owner and you do have a legacy in mind, and it is about your why, it is about your purpose, then you're going to want to you're going to need to step up. And again, this is why it's so wonderful having a visibility expert in to also talk about that. It's like that, oh my God, I've got to stand up and say something now. And, you know, we've had people that have talked about speaking, public speaking, and making sure that, you know, how to break that down. Brilliant session, even last year with Ronke.
Definitely.
So again, we've got different ways of getting you out there. It doesn't have to be, for me, leadership is so much more attainable because you have different publics. So even if you were a great leader in the workplace, a great leader as a boss, you're still a great leader. You know, if you're then using those examples, you're a great leader in the community, you're a solopreneur. You know, it doesn't matter. You can always be a great leader. You can always step up. And I think that is what I absolutely love about making people see that, all right, you've got a mission. We need to get more people there. And I was chatting to a really good friend of mine. She said, well, what am I going to do in my corner? And she's so passionate. She's all about empowering women. She's all about making sure that you get out there and you succeed and you've got a solid business plan. And she said, yeah, but then, you know, what have I got that, you know, I'm just doing this for my group. I just turned around and went, look up, and you'll suddenly see how many more of you are doing that to help these women like grow. I went, you're doing one aspect of it, but then they'll go on to somebody else, then they'll go on to somebody else. I went, it's a chain reaction, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not, and when you're doing that, then you become more visible, so someone else notices you who might be doing something similar, and then you collaborate, and then it grows and grows, and so you all lift each other up together at the same time. I think that's really important as well, and not thinking, oh, I've got to do everything, because I think what happens is if you are a specialist in something, then it's very much easier to become a leader and really, inspire people, like you say, and empower people. I love that. But what it does is if there's a gap in the market, someone else can fill that.
Yeah.
I think this is the beauty now, with all of these things and solutions to be had and problems in the world. Unfortunately, it means that there's a lot of roles out there for people who want to become solopreneurs or entrepreneurs and take on those roles and find the solutions that we need. You don't have to go into a job that everyone else is doing or go and do something that everyone else is doing. You can actually come up with something quite unique.
I've always found that really interesting when you see the reluctance. I mean, this is why I love LinkedIn, because I'm seeing it from both ends. I'm seeing a lot of HR and business coaches, as in those that work in the workplace, so working with employees and employers. And I'm seeing a lot of them are talking about the reluctance to go back into work, how people,
right, okay.
and well, it's not so much reluctance, but I think there's so much that's still uncertain. Hybrid working, do people want to travel in now? Have we valued life a little bit more differently? So I think there is a cheeky sort of angle here as to, well, if it hasn't been for you, or you feel like there's something more that you want to do, then again, don't look at, oh my God, the cost of what I've got to do will be from here to here. Like, the reason for this talk is that people will think, well, PR, I need to get out there, I need to be more visible, but I won't be able to hire an agency. You don't need to hire an agency. We showed you last week, you can do your PR yourself from a media relations point of view. Everything I've been saying on this chat will be, can you do it yourself, or do you need to hire someone and outsource you with certain bits? Can you do that internally? Can you hire somebody else like me if you're really stuck? And that's where it comes down to it. The majority of people that hire me, it's not that they can't do it themselves, it's just they don't have the time. That is,
it's the time, and sometimes you just need that initial expertise or a plan or something like that to get going, isn't it? A bit of consultation or something just to get you on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's so much out there now. So I think people starting a business now, they've got so many resources and experts to go to at all sorts of different levels of budgets as well. It's about finding those right people, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's just it. See, spot on. The way that I see it is that there is an element of PR that is like, grow your tribe. There is an element of it as you really need to bring in those people, those connections. It has to be a little bit more strategic of just getting to know everybody, or always turning up at the parties and not knowing who's there. It's been really strategic, going, I know I'm going to this place for that reason. I know that I'm meeting this person, or I know that they're part of an organization that is considered one of the best in my industry, or something like that. They really are aligned with the concerns that I have, so I need to make sure that I'm there. And some of my favorite PR activities, as it were to, it would be to place that client who had no, probably, they were doing really amazing work, and to give them that platform so they got a speaking gig. For me, and for me, it's like, you're really good at what you do. You just need to showcase, and again, inspire and empower the others to do, like, either follow suit, or perhaps, inspire them to go, oh, but I'd like to do it this way, because it's a better way of working. So yeah, there's so many options to it, but hopefully that gives you a final part as to what PR can deliver, and having that PR mindset. You may not necessarily call it that. Sometimes I just like to call it good old common sense. just that's honestly, a lot of you will be doing this, and I think that this is just, some of it is just damn good common sense.
Yeah, It is just, yeah, it's sort of thinking and just pausing and going, hang on a minute, yeah. But I mean, no, but there is a lot of expertise involved in what you do. So, I think it's been a brilliant series. I mean, I've learned a lot, PR is not my background. So thank you. That's been really, really informative and inspiring. And we've had some great guests as well. So.
Yeah, and I've loved your comments. And also, I think for me, if you have any questions, by all means, just where to find us. You can post comments underneath the videos. And you also have access to us. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on we're obviously on Facebook if you've joined us on the page. But yeah, if you have any more questions, just please ask. But for me, I want you to know that this is attainable. This is absolutely doable. You will see results. You will align it up to your objectives as to where you need to be, who you need to align yourself up with. And just every time you're doing that now, just think, put that under the PR column maybe, and then you'll realize that effort equates to something. And then you can measure it and track it, and then you'll see it.
Definitely. Brilliant. Thank you. Cool.
Well, we have a 2-week break.
We do. This is our last one for August, isn't it?
This is our last one for August, folks. So thank you so much. I'll probably put up a post. I will put up a post to announce that we're not around.
Yeah, on holiday.
We're on holiday. We're taking some time out. And I think that we will definitely see you back in September. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and have a great rest of the summer. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.